Hey guys, it's Matt. Flying solo on this one. I'm actually at my new house. I don't have everything all set up. My gun room's not all put together yet. But however, I wanted to go ahead and get this video started. So my wife actually just got a brand new Ruger Precision from the custom shop. So we started looking around and we actually decided to get the ATN X-Sight 4K Pro to put on it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to put the scope onto the rifle. At the very end, I'll probably put in a nice little video of, her shooting it just so you can see it, all that, fun stuff. But I just want to do a quick video on actually installing the scope and kind of the basic roughs, how to get it set up, because I've already started looking at it and it's honestly very simple, but in the same concept of very complicated. There's several settings that you have to change, several things that you have to get set up. And I know, like, right out of the box, they tell you, hey, you need to get on the website and you need to update the firmware. So when you get the scope, make sure you have an SD card as well, because you've actually got to put the file on the SD card and put it in the scope shortly after you power it up before you can do anything else with it. So anywho, let's go ahead and let's just jump right in. And I'm going to open up the box, show you what's in it. I've already opened it up, in all honesty. Got all the stickies off of it, all that. But I'll at least show you what's in the box, and then we'll start on getting it put on. All right. All right, guys. So here we are. So here's what's in the box. To start, it's the scope. It's fairly hefty for being basically a computer. Real nice. Got a little bit of weight to it. It's got all the controls right here on top. Honestly, very simple. Your power, your menu navigation, and your select in the middle. You've got the turn knob on the side. The only thing that does, from what I read, is it zooms it in, and that's it. All the adjustments and ballistics and everything else is all done on the scope itself through the computer. There is an ocular adjustment on this side, and that's just so you can focus it in and out. So there's the scope. Underneath that is a cool little case. It's a nylon zipper case that you can put it in there. It comes with the sunscreen and then also a cleaning cloth. So it gives you a couple of different sets of scope mounts. One of them is just the regular 2-ring scope mounts, which is actually the ones that we're going to be using today. But it actually, if you're going to put it on an AR, it actually has a cantilever mount as well. But we're not going to be using that one. And then the other coolest part about the whole scope, and I didn't realize it actually had this when I got it, is it actually has an IR illuminator. So once you get everything all mounted up, you actually mount it on the side of it, and there is a version of night vision with this scope, which we will discuss later. I'm going to leave it in the box for right now. I just kind of wanted to show you what was in it so that we can get started on all this. All right, guys. So just to start out, before we get started on everything, I'm going to tell you what tools we need. I've got everything set out right here. I've got the scope rings already taken apart and set up there to the side. I've got me a basic screwdriver, obviously, to get things in and out. I've got the right socket to actually tighten the scope rings onto the rifle. I have my torque wrench. A lot of people say that you don't need a torque wrench, so on and whatnot. I honestly think you do, because it's going to help make sure you don't over tighten things. Because I honestly actually had another scope, a Vortex Viper, that I did. I over tightened it, crushed the rector tubes, sent it off to Vortex because I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get it zeroed. And sure as crap, they sent me back and said, hey, you crushed the rector tubes in it. So I am a firm believer of using the torque wrench. That said, we also have the scope levels to make sure that the scope is level to the gun. We have our mating bars. When you get the rings in and you get them tightened up, you can actually use these bars to make sure that your rings are lined up properly so that your scope will fit in there properly. I have the lapping bar with the lapping compound, and what this does is this smooths out your rings. So a lot of ones that aren't precision, quote unquote precision machine, may have a few little burrs, may have a little bumps, may have imperfections in the paint, things like that. All those things can have a drastic effect on your accuracy of your scope just because it pushes it, you know, one way or the other. And then you'll also need some thread locker. So we've got all this together. So now let's work on getting it put together. All right, guys. So here we are at this point. We're going to just jump right in and get to getting this scope mounted on there. So the first thing you need to do is just get your rings on there. Get a good starting point. You don't want to over tighten, you just finger tight just to kind of get them on there. Because the first thing you have to do is make this scope comfortable to you. So you want to get the scope on there, just lay it on there. You don't have to put the tops on there. You don't have to do anything else. But what you want to do is you want to get behind the gun. You want to get behind that scope. And you want to see if that lines up, if you can get comfortable. Here we go. Just make sure that you can focus. Make sure that you can see there's no black marks all the way around, anything like that. And this looks pretty good. Yeah, like I said, make sure you get comfortable behind it. You don't want to just put it on there and then once you get it all tightened down, you have to, you know, undo it because it's in the wrong spot. I had an idea of where mine goes because, you know, I've put a couple of them on there before. My preference, other people may say different things, is you want to have the scope ring mounted as far forward or pushed as far forward within your bracket before you actually tighten these down. The reasoning being, when you fire the rifle, the load is going to, oh, let me tighten that up, is going to push everything back. So if it's all the way back, if things move, it's going to push it forward, which is going to push you out of focus or out of zero, and it just can cause problems. Whether mine's right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't know. This is just the way that I've done it on just about every scope that I've put on. We're going to tighten those up. We're not going to over tighten them. And there we go. All right. One of the next things we're going to do is we're actually just going to lay these on here loosely because we're going to get the other little precision pins in there. Now you just need 2 screws in here because you're just putting this little bar in there just to make sure that everything is lined up. And snug just enough to where you can still barely move those. Like I said, these don't have to be super tight. We just want to push this towards the middle and make sure that these line up. You don't want them to move a whole lot. But what this is doing, and this is just making sure that the scope rings are lined up with each other. You know, if they're not, you can actually loosen these, adjust it a little bit, push it forward, push it back, but you want to make sure that these line up, which I actually did pretty damn good right from the start because we are touching ends, looks like all the way around. All right, beautiful. so we can pull those out, and we are done with those. Next, we need our lapping bar and our grease, or our compound. So basically this is kind of like a 220 sandpaper, if you will. You want to take just a little bit, put it all the way around, and literally just a little bit is all you need. And that might actually even be a little too much. So, but you're gonna rub it all the way around, smear it all the way in on both rings. Need more for. All right. All right, so again, what we're gonna do is we're gonna tighten these down just enough that it's snug. Because the whole idea is still being able, oh, too much. Still being able to move that lapping bar within there. All right, that should be fairly sufficient on getting that done. Next, we'll actually be putting the scope on so we can pull the top of the rings off. And when you pull this off, make sure you don't change the orientation of where it's set. Because again, that can also cause just a little bit of indiscrepancies. So just straight down. All right. Next, just wipe all that lapping stuff off and make sure you clean it really, really well. And it's just, all you're doing is wiping off the compound. You don't need wet rag, you don't need anything else. Just wipe it down really well with a towel, paper towels, whatever it is you're using. Make sure there's no grit in that either. In the screw holes. Make sure there's no grit in there. Make sure you get it all out. All right. So as you can actually see how this one changed just a little bit. It took off just a little bit of the paint. And again, that's because of the little imperfections within that paint is why it's taking it off. But those little imperfections can actually make your scope be inaccurate. All right. Scope time. All right, so when putting these in first, you're going to do them just very, very loosely. So, again, once we got this on there, we're going to just get it on there very loosely. Like I said, get behind it, see how you like it, make sure it's in the right spot. Make sure you're good and comfortable. All right, that looks good. Got my level, which my gun is not being very level. There's that. Now, it helps to have a level surface, but remember, you're just needing to get the scope level to the gun, not necessarily level to the ground. So once you got it on there, get a screw or two, tighten just a little bit more just to make it hold on. All right, so one thing you have to make sure you do is mind your gaps. So on each side of your scope ring, you'll have a gap. You want to make sure those are as even as possible. I know looking at them, it's, you know, just kind of eyeballing it. All right, scope still looks level to the gun. All right. So you just start tightening one little bit on each side, little bit on each side. Like I said, just make sure that you have your, ooh, that fell. Just make sure you have your gaps even. Now, here's where you can do the thread locker. So you take them out just one at a time, because I've got my 2 screws that are holding everything down. Scope's not moving, you know, if I touch it, so I'm not worried about bumping it too much. But quite literally, one at a time, you pull out a screw, you put on your dab of thread locker, you put it back in, and you tighten it just to where it's just barely snug so that you can get the next one out. All right, there we go. We've got all that in. We're going to check one more time to make sure that we're still level. Let's see. Gun looks level. Scope looks level. Set it on there just to see something different. Gun looks level. Scope looks level. Is that one going to tell me something different? Gun looks level. Scope looks level. Yeah. Multiple places. Gun looks level, scope looks level. Let's actually look through it. All right. All right. All right, guys. Once you get all that tightened up and everything just looks nice and straight, like I said, mind your gaps. So, in my, again, personal preference, I always make sure I want to cross these. I don't ever want to do like tighten this one, then this one, and then this one, and this one. You always want to cross. So I'm going to go from the bottom here to the top over here to the top over here to the bottom over here. So you just want to make sure those are nice and snug for now. Again, we're not looking for anything overly tight. And I'm gonna look through it one more time. Looks good and level there. All right, both the gun and the scope look level. As I look through it, the crosshairs look level. And everything looks good. All right, so now we're gonna do the final tightening. So again, like I said, you don't want to tighten this one, this one, this one, and this one. You wanna start with one, and I've got this set at, looks like 18 inch-pounds. And you're just gonna turn it till it clicks. There's one. Then I'm gonna cross. Clicks. Across. And then we're going to get these ones. All right. Now they're all secured at the 18 foot-pound or inch-pounds. After this, I'm going to get everything all picked up. The scope's on there nice and tight. I've got the thread locker on there. They're tightened down to the 18 inch-pounds. So we are all good to go here. I'm going to get everything all cleaned up and